too.
We're standing here today with this giant of a man, Kwain Bryant. He hails from the Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina. This is his second year coming to this M.A.D.E event. This year our theme was a greater man to be. Last year, what they never told him about being a man. And we had to get this man back by popular demand. Mr. Bryant, it's been great, man, just fellowshipping with you 2 years in a row.
Yeah, 2 years, man, 2 years.
And we heard him talking over lunch, man, while we was eating our fiddles, that you had to fight. and so we appreciate you coming to this city and just showing love to the male students with the presentation, aka the hype man. It's phenomenal. If I could recommend anybody to come drop knowledge, drop that fire, it'll be Mr. Bryant. Tell us, you give us your reflection about today.
Yeah, I thought today was an awesome opportunity to connect and invest in the lives of the young men. And so we had a session today called Real Talk. And we had a conversation with the young men around really this idea, how do real men communicate? And we talked about this idea of thinking big, acting bigger, and living better, and how to make an investment in your life as well as your communities.
Man, what can you say? What can you say from that? I mean, the whole day was just impactful. If you missed this event, you missed a treat. And guess what? We're going to do it again next year. So stay tuned for part 3 of this endeavor of destiny. And we're living on purpose with Mr. Kwain Bryant.
Thank you, sir. My name is Kwain Bryant. I am the senior consultant of a company I started about 10 years ago called Empowerment Exchange. We are a human capital investment company, and what that simply means is that we invest in the lives of individuals, families, organizations, and communities to facilitate a productive and positive change. I'm extremely excited about this investment opportunity we have today. I'm also the Youth Services Manager with Rural Industries. We focus on career development, and so I'm very much engaged in the lives of young people. I've been working with adolescents and young adults or emerging adults for about 18 years. And I'm very passionate about the work. You'll kind of see that come through the presentation, so bear with me a little bit on that. But I'm excited about this opportunity. I get a chance to travel around the country and do this work. Just got back from Portland working with M.A.D.E. Had a chance to work with the brand ambassadors, Austin Rivers, Josh Shelby, Damian Lillard, who's going to be the Rookie of the Year in the NBA, and to work with those guys on how their behavior and what they do impacts their brand, their personal brand as well as the company's brand, and that in turn impacts their money-earning potential. And so that was really exciting, and just recently got back from the Ohio State University, working with the coaches there, because of course when athletes make poor choices, it hurts the university. And so you literally have 18 and 21-year-old men who are brand ambassadors for prestigious universities. So when they do stupid things, it can cost the university money. And so we had a chance to share with the coaches, and hopefully I'll get back in August and start working with some of the players directly. But this session is titled Real Men Talk. And I love working with males in particular. That's how I really got my start. I coordinated a male responsibility program literally 18 years ago. It was my first job out of college. Coordinating that program, I learned a great deal from those young men. And ever since then, I've been working in some capacity with young men and emerging adult males as well. And I'm a huge advocate of continuing education. And you'll hear that through the presentation as well. So this topic, let me start back. I'm sorry. I forgot to start my thing on, so my PowerPoint. Just give it a second. All right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I started it. So this section is titled "Real Men Talking," and I want to focus on this concept about thinking big, acting bigger, and living better. Real men talking, thinking big, acting bigger, and living better. Because I think thinking big is huge, but acting bigger is significant, but living better is this quality of life. And so, as most educators, if you're educated, you know that repetition is important for learning, so you'll see it flash up on the screen. Think big, act some real men talking, real men talking. I love this quote by John Eldridge. He says that masculinity is bestowed. A boy learns who he is and what he's got from a man or the company of men. He cannot learn in any other place. He can't learn it from other boys, and he can't learn it from a woman. The plan from the beginning of time was that his father would lay the foundation for a young boy's heart and pass on to him the essential knowledge and confidence in his strength. Dad would be the first man in his life and forever the most important man. Very impactful. But what about that young man that does not have a father, a dad in the home? Where does he learn from? And I like this sentence in this quote here that says that he can learn it from the presence of men. That if a male is going to learn to be a man, he at least at a minimum has to be in the presence of another man to really gain that. And it's interesting, ladies. Bear with me. I'm glad we have some ladies here. So that boys can't teach men how to be men. Nor can a woman teach a man how to be a man. And now, that's kind of tough language because we have a lot of single moms that are moms and dads to our young boys. And they do a great job. I would suggest, too, that it might be important if there's not a strong male figure, or man in their lives to put them in the presence of strong men so they can begin to model that behavior of what's important and how to live their lives. And so this session about real men talking is really interesting. Now, how many of you have seen it? If you have B.E.T. or have ever watched B.E.T., I'm assuming you've seen the movie Baby Boy at least 10 times. Right? B.E.T. showed that movie every other week, I believe, okay? And so it's interesting now. And the premise of that movie, you had the actor and the singer Tyrese. The movie starts off with him, what? Being inside his mother's womb. The umbilical cord attached, but he's a fully grown man. And so, and it talks about, and the premise of the movie, I guess John Singleton wrote the movie on the premise of the Oedipus complex, where Oedipus had this fascination with his mother. That he was chronologically old enough to be a male, but had this fascination with his mom. That even though he was chronologically old enough to technically be a man, that he had this connection and fascination with mom because his developmental state didn't match his chronological age. And so oftentimes women are most of the times, women are very nurturing. And they have to nurture babies. And to nurture babies, they oftentimes, when they're feeding them, when they're newborns, they what? Breastfeed, right? And so it's a beautiful thing to see that. But it's interesting though, at some point in their chronological development, that young boy can no longer what? Suck for his mother. That he needs to begin to stand on his own too, at some point. Now, Naeem Akbar, who was a president at FAMU, not president, he was a psychology teacher, professor at FAMU, wrote this book titled The Community Itself. And he kind of broke down the stages which really parallel the movie Baby Boy. He said that oftentimes the stages of manhood go from the baby stage to the boy stage to the man stage. And that the baby stage was very similar as it relates to characteristics of an infant, a newborn. The newborn babies, oftentimes, what do they do when they're hungry? What do they do when they're cold? What do they do when they just want attention? Babies cry. When they have desires, when they have needs, they cry. They don't know how to express it any other way. And I suggest to you today that we have some 15, 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old babies. Anytime they want something, they cry. Whining and crying for attention to get what they need because they don't have the ability, the knowledge, the intellect, the resources to get it on their own. And so just like a newborn baby, They oftentimes whine, complain, and cry to get what they want or need. Baby. Then you have the boy stage. The boys, what do boys love to do? Play games. Boys love to play games. Boys like to play basketball, they like to play baseball, they like to play football, they like to play games on women. Oftentimes telling women that they love them just to what? Sleep with them. Boys play games. Boys like toys too. They like nice shiny cars with rims. They like to wash them and clean them and play with them. It's an interesting thing. Boys will buy a $40 snapback but not have anything on their mind. Boys will buy a $200 watch and not know what time it is. Boys will buy a $200 pair of sneakers and not be going anywhere. Boys play games.
Wow.
And they can fool you because they can pretend to be a man and do manly things. But at the end of the day, they don't have the ability, the knowledge, or the skills, or the resources to do what men do. And you'll find out that we have some 15, 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old boys. Or even babies. Still living at their mama's crib. Y'all feel me? Crib. Babies. Boys can't be self-sufficient and take care of themselves. But men, let's talk about men. And in short, what men do. Men are self-sufficient. That simply means that they can take care of themselves. That men make sure that they gain the knowledge, the skills, and the resources to be able to provide first and foremost for themselves. They're self-sufficient. They can stand on their own too. When they call their parents or their guardians, they don't call them necessarily to ask them for something. They call to see how they're doing. Because they're already sufficient in their own. They don't need anything else. But real men not only take care of themselves, real men at some point may choose to have a family. And the real man oftentimes won't have a family until he can provide for his family. That's what real men do. They take care of themselves and they take care of their families. But not only do they take care of themselves and their families, but real men take care of their communities. That if there's an issue going on in their community, real men help address those issues. They're not the problems in the community, they're the problem solvers. So real men are self-sufficient, take care of themselves, they take care of their family, and they take care of their community. It's a higher level of responsibility. And so, if we can have a session today titled Real Men Talking, I want to talk about some things. I forgot to say this. I have an action hero. Now, I didn't say superhero. I can't fly anywhere. But what I can do, and what real men do, is take action. When a problem confronts them, when a situation confronts them, real men take action. And so I've always seen myself as an action hero, a.k.a. the hype man. And as you can tell, I'm high energy. I've always been hyper my entire life. And so as an educator, it's an acrylic here that simply stands for helping young people excel. That's kind of hot. Give it up for me for that. I am a hip-hop historian, so I will use some slang here and there in my presentation. It'll be appropriate, but it's just for effect, okay? I am a Tupacologist. I studied the life and times of Tupac Amaru Shakur. And so I will incorporate him in my presentation as well. But this idea that real men think big, this idea of expanding and growing your mind. And that's the beautiful thing about learning. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this idea that you have to really be a thinker, a critical thinker. And critical thinking, oftentimes, you have to reflect. Now, I've worked with incarcerated young men over the years. And what I realize is that when young men in particular, and older men, when they're incarcerated, it's the first time in their lives that they've sat still for any significant amount of time to reflect on their life. And so I encourage young men, you don't have to go to jail, okay, to have time to reflect. You can make time to reflect on who you are, what it is, and what you desire, but to begin to think about your life in a way how you can develop and grow into a man. And so this idea of thinking big really has to do with thinking big about yourself. How is it that real men see themselves and think big of themselves? They think bigger as an individual, actually. They understand. It's a beautiful thing about being an individual. Now, I'm going to give you guys a throwback movie. Who in here remembers The Matrix? Yeah. And what was the main character in The Matrix? Neo. And we spent 2 hours, right, in the first Matrix for Neo to realize that he was the what? The one. The chosen one. The chosen one. That he was this individual. And the beautiful thing about being the one, when men realize that they're the one, they realize that they cannot be subtracted or divided. That they are the one. And if something is going to get done, it has to be done by who? Them. They have to take the initiative. They understand who they are. And they not only understand who they are, they understand their values. That simply means they understand what they believe in and what they stand for. Real men believe in know what they believe, and they've identified their values. And I love what Malcolm X said. Malcolm X simply said this. Malcolm said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Real men know what they stand for. Because life will come at you fast. Things will come your way fast. Pretty, shiny objects will come by you quite frequently. And if you don't know what you stand for, you might find yourself off course, chasing things that are really not important to you. An old school saying was, don't spend major time on minor things. And what are the minors and what are the majors? The majors are those things that mean something to you, something that has value for you. And so you have to ask yourself, real men ask themselves, where am I spending my time? Because real men also understand that time is money. No, let me correct that. Real men understand that time is more important than money. Because real men understand that you can always make more money, but you can't create any more time. This moment we have together is the only moment that we have. It's fleeting, and when it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. 30 is not the new 20. 30 is 30. 40 is 40. Let's be clear about that. Time is important, okay? And real men value time over anything. Because it's not the time itself, but it's what can happen within that time. Value. Not only that, real men understand about personality. The Greek meaning of personality is persona. And persona simply means to put on a mask. That oftentimes in life, we have to what? Wear the mask. When you go to your church, mosque, synagogue, temple, you wear a certain mask. When you go to class, you wear a certain mask. When you go to work, you wear a certain mask. But understand this, that even though you have different personas, you still realize who you truly are as an individual. And as long as you are rooted and grounded in who you are, you can have various personas to play the game. But don't let your personas define who you are. Because that's not you. That's the role that you are playing in this situation. And you can still stay true to your values, but understand that we may have to assimilate to get ahead in certain environments. And that does not mean that you're not keeping it real, keeping it 100, as the kids would say. You're still yourself. And last but not least, is that real men are in charge of their emotions. Now, most people, when we think about being emotional, we think of what gender? That's a feminine trait. My experience is that men are more emotional than women. And what I mean by that, they are laughing. Now, why is that so funny, ladies?
It's true.
And it's true. All right. Now, and it's interesting. And I say they're laughing because, and this is why. Women do a phenomenal job of expressing their emotions. They will get with their girlfriends and they will talk about you like nobody's business. They'll get it all out. They'll put their emotions out there. Men, we have emotions. But guess what? We don't have anybody that we can talk to and express our emotions to. And if you've ever been in love, and ever had someone you were so passionate about, and that relationship ended, fellas. Y'all know that sick feeling you get in your stomach where you can't even hardly get up out of bed. You feel like you gotta throw up, and you feel like, oh my God. But you can't tell anybody that you feel that way. You suffer in silence. And then what we associate with, the one emotion that comes easy to us, is anger. And so when real men don't address their primary emotions, they become angry. And they call women out of their name. They call them the B word, the H word, and are very disrespectful because they are really hurt. And they haven't dealt with that primary emotion of being hurt and having resources around them to help them cope and deal with that hurt. Real men talking. I know we got some ladies in the house and I'm giving up some secrets, fellas, but I just want to build with y'all for a minute and hopefully they'll be able to understand us a little better. But understand, and T.D. Jakes, he's a phenomenal minister and pastor and author. He wrote a book a couple years back called Emotions and talked about the emotional capacity of men and why it's so important for men to identify with their emotions. And so if I had some men that were brave enough, you challenge me and I said, if you're brave enough, right, to do, oftentimes we have young guys do this activity. I'll ask them to come up and I'll click a word on the screen and I say, complete the sentence. Fill in the sentence with this word. I was happy when, or I'm happy when, I'm proud when, I was confused when, I was frustrated when. And we start to get down to these words here. Guys start struggling. If I was to ask the men to stand up and click up one of these words and say, when were you jealous? I felt jealous when. Last session, they ain't gonna do it, y'all. Last, because they struggled last session. One brother finally said, he's like, I felt jealous when my ex remarried. That's real talk. That's real talk. Yeah. Somebody that took your place, homie. Right? Understand, and men, we get jealous. And when we don't deal with our emotions, our jealousy turns to anger. And sometimes our anger can turn to violence. And sometimes violence can turn to jail. Is it 48 hours or 72 now? 48 hours? Which one is it? Domestic violence? 72 hours now? Yeah, 72 hours. You're going to cool off. You can cool off today, and tomorrow, and the next day. You're going to cool off a little, buddy. All right? And so understand this. If you can't control your emotions, then someone else will help you control your emotions. Real men don't need help controlling their emotions. Jim Rome says, send your emotions to school so they can learn how to behave. Right? Send your emotions to school. And so, these emotions. And now understand this, right? And this is a quote between me and Kanye. When you understand who you are, Kwain, y'all like that Kwain? Anyway, when you understand who you are, you will have haters. Right? And I love your haters because they are your biggest fans. See, when you're an individual and you know who you are, people wash my car, and go show love to the haters. I just ride around and show love. What's up, man? What's up, man? That just shows love. So haters need love. Right? You gotta show love. But that's in understanding who you are and having this sense of self. Because this sense of self, self-perception, self-efficacy, and self-acceptance, efficacy, and one more that is. Is it esteem? Esteem? Maybe it's just self-efficacy and self-awareness. I'm sorry. Woo, I knew it was one. I had a moment there. I was like, now I know I got one more here. All right, so it's self-perception, self-awareness, and self-efficacy. But self-efficacy out of both is the greatest. Because, see, self-awareness and perception are important, but it is not quite as important as self-efficacy. Because I worked with young men. I worked with this young man one time. He wanted to be a professional wrestler. Little guy. He wanted to be a professional wrestler. And he said, Mr. Bryant, I want to be a professional wrestler. And all the other guys started laughing. And he said, I don't mind because I got high self-esteem. Wow, that's good. He said, yes, every morning I wake up and I look in the mirror and I go, I know that you know that I know you sexy. And I'm like, say that again. And he said it again. So every since then, every morning when I wake up, I look in the mirror and I go, I know that you know that I know you sexy. Now, the question is, are you really sexy? That could be debated, right? But if you think that you are sexy, then you are. That's self-perception. That's how you perceive yourself. Self-awareness is how aware you are of the things that you do, how you function on a day-to-day basis. But self-efficacy is having confidence in your ability to accomplish and achieve. That's what makes us feel really good about who we are. And that will impact the choices that we make. It will impact the effort that we put forth. Right? I saw a little guy, he wanted a 6-inch sub, about 7 years old. He begged his mom for a 6-inch sub. And she found a guy for him. He got that sub, and he was trying to wrap his mouth around that thing, and tomatoes and mayonnaise, and then it was squirting all over the place. He was struggling with that little sandwich, big sandwich with his little self. And then, but finally, he just kept going. I said, man, that's about self-efficacy. This idea of the kind of effort that you put forth. I love that saying that persistence is when you bite off more than you can chew, and you just keep chewing. See, when you have that sense of self-efficacy, you'll keep chewing. You won't stop until you what? Finish or complete. That's what real men do. They finish things that they start. We would also impact how long we persist when confronted with obstacles as well as how we feel. Now, this is an interesting thing about esteem. Is that we tend to be most comfortable with people whose esteem is similar to ours. So if you have no self-esteem, if you're calling, oh man, that girl, she just the beat, she just this, that, other, you might want to look at yourself. Because we tend to choose our partners and our mates who are very similar to us. And the most disastrous relationships are between those two who both got low esteem. You've seen them. They argue 24/7. They break each other down all the time. Even when they're not arguing, it sounds like they argue. Y'all know people like that? Tear each other down. But yet can't move on to anyone else. Interesting, esteem. And so it benefits us to have this high esteem. Real talk around thinking big. Dr. Ruby Payne wrote a book called Understanding the Framework of Poverty. And she talks about this transition from a lack of resources to education to abundant resources. And she said the skills that she's identified for individuals to be successful is that they have to have knowledge. They have to have vision and goals, relationships, and resources. Now, I'm a basketball fan, and it is March Madness, right? And in March Madness, we have a lot of basketball games going on. And who's familiar with the term crossover? Yeah, a young man back there. I know you know what a crossover is. What's a crossover? Share with me what a crossover is. Or share, just communicate. All right, why would you take it to one side and bring it to the other side? Say it again. All right, so what are you doing to the defender? All right, why are you crossing him over? To fake him out, right? You make him go this way, but you go that way. Very good. And so this idea is that individuals oftentimes, when they make the crossover, they're really able to gain their knowledge, those visions and relationships, as well as the resources they need to be successful. Now, education or knowledge is the first resource that's key. This ability to read, write, compute, and critically think. If you're going to be successful, I don't care what you do, you have to have that. That's why expanding and growing the mind is so important. That if you've ever had old friends, those shoulda, coulda, woulda friends, old school guys, you go back home and you realize that now you don't have anything else in what? Common. Why? Because you have expanded your what? Mind. Thank you. And once you expand your mind, it never goes back to what? The size that it was. And so that's why old friends become new acquaintances. Because you no longer have what? Anything in common. You used to be boys. Y'all used to be tight. But now you've outgrown it. And so your old friend now has to be an acquaintance. Because you no longer are going in the same direction. Real men talk. And so education, expanding and growing our mind is key. One of the reasons why it's key, that education will enrich your life. Why will education enrich your life? Or how?
More money, better friends.
More money. Yeah, better friends. Very good. Anything else? Increase opportunity and exposure. Excellent. You're exactly right. I'll give you an example. My daughter, about 5-6 years ago, wanted to go to Africa. I tell this story all the time. And as a father, I didn't have Africa money. I wanted to go, couldn't afford it. So as a caring and loving father, I did what the best thing that I could do. I purchased her a book on Africa. Some of y'all think that's right. You want to go to Africa and you got a book. Interesting. Well, my daughter, to her credit, she read the book front to back. And I was proud of her. And it's an interesting thing about life and how the universe works. I truly believe the universe conspires to make happen for those things that individuals desire and are willing to put forth the effort to accomplish and achieve. It conspires to make those things happen for them. And a year and a half later, our church was going on a mission trip. And guess where they were going? Africa. And guess whose child was on that plane? Mine. Now, that's not the moral to the story. The moral to the story is when she got to Africa, she had an enriching experience. Why? Because her mind had already been to Africa before her body could physically get there. And so she understood the climate, so she knew how to dress. She understood about the food and the culture, so she was prepared for it. So when she got there, just unlike her peers, she had an enriching experience. And she was able to take everything in. She understood more about the culture than her peers did. When she got back, I said, baby, what did you learn when you were in Africa? She said, I learned that I'm fortunate. And I'm thinking, we had to go all the way to Africa. Fortunate. She said, Dad, they have to walk 2 miles to get dirty water, to walk back 2 more miles to boil the water for human consumption, when you can walk out those doors to a water fountain, press your button, and get clean water. Fortunate. But her life was forever changed by the experience because her mind had already been to Africa before her body could get there. Enriching. Education will enrich your life. I work with these millionaire athletes. They have all the money in the world, but no class. Class is obtained through learning and training. That's the only way you get it. You can buy the food at the expensive restaurant, but you can't read the menu. Education. You can buy the nice car, but not understand the technology. Money buys the car. The mind understands the technology. Real men understand that education enriches your life, but it also will open doors for you. We live in a credentialing society that you have to have certain credentials to get into certain doors. If you want to be an engineer, more than likely you have to have a what? A degree in engineering. Credentialing society. You will only have access to certain things if you have those credentials. Now, is that fair? Maybe, maybe not. Is it the way that it is? Yes. And so you have to understand, you have to be able to play the game, get the credentials that you need to have those doors open. And then, thirdly, it will allow you to make more what? Money. More moolah, baby. Yeah. Money. Money is a beautiful thing. We hear like, I didn't say love, I said like. Oh, money. Money is an awesome thing. Men understand that the benefit of money is to purchase goods and services. Money allows us to have opportunities, more opportunities. Okay? You see a nice pair of shoes. One person might look at it and say, those shoes cost too much. Another person might like, no, they don't. And so the question is, do the shoes cost too much, or do you not have enough money to pay for them? Another way to look at it. Because my experience in life is that if you really want something and you got the money, regardless of the cost, you're going to what? You're going to get it if you really want it. And so money is really not the determining factor. It's in how much you desire something or you want something. And the question is, can you buy what you desire? Money purchases goods and services. Now, can I tell y'all something sexy? Yeah, sexy. Sexy is when you go home and you open your refrigerator and you see eggs, turkey bacon, ham, cheese, milk, orange juice. That is sexy. That's sexy. I'm telling you, that is sexy. Let me tell you what's not sexy. Is when you go home and you open your refrigerator and all you see is that light bulb. That is not sexy. What allowed you to have those groceries in your refrigerator? Money. Money allows us to sustain life, to live. Money helped build this building. Money helped build our schools and institutions of higher learning. Make no mistake about it. We have to have money even if we want to do good. So it can benefit us. This is the first year that I committed to giving back in a deliberate and intentional way. I'm on the board of KIPP schools. I don't know if you're familiar with KIPP schools. Researching phenomenal schools where young people come in 2 or 3 grade levels behind. The time they leave in 2 or 3 grade levels above. It's amazing. They go to the high school, preparatory schools, and collegiate schools around the country. And these are individuals from fragile communities who have little bit or nothing, and they start off behind. And so I give my time, energy, and my resources to this organization. Now, I'm not balling like that, but I made a commitment to myself and to my community to do that. And so giving back is key. And now, I love this idea about the mind, that you have powers that you never dreamed of. You can do things that you never thought you could do. There are no limitations to what you can do except for the limitations of your own mind. Real men expand and they grow their mind because they want to continue to produce. But not only do we need real men to think big, we need real men to act what? Big. Right? Because I love motivation. Motivation is great. Affirmation is great. But motivation and affirmation without activity is delusional. You keep telling yourself all these wonderful things, but you're not doing anything. And we're in the South. And there's a church on every corner in the South. Understand that. But faith without works, without action, it has to be faith in action. And so understand that men take action. They think big, but they act bigger. Now, I'm an avid reader. And it's interesting. Back in the mid-90s, I was a big hip-hop head. And I used to listen to Tupac, Amaru Shakur. And I was reading and kind of listening to his music. And I was like, wow, this guy's a powerful guy. So one minute he's kind of righteous and saying his good stuff, and the next minute he just says stuff crazy. But he used to talk about the different books that he was reading. And I was like, man, this guy's pretty intelligent. He was a voracious reader. He would consume books like this on a weekly basis. And so he turned me on to the book, The Art of War, Machiavelli the Prince. And he talked about, and so I went out, he talked about those individuals in his songs and those books, and I went out and read just great information. And for most MBA programs, The Art of War is required reading. And to understand how to negotiate and navigate an organizational structure and things of that nature. But one of the books I read a couple of years ago was a really neat book by Malcolm Gladwell. I like Malcolm Gladwell and his research techniques. And he's not even a researcher about training and development. He does a pretty good job at it. He wrote a book called The Outliers, The Story of Success. And he talked about what makes the super duper successful people successful. Now, who are some super duper successful people that you know? Oprah always come up, right? Oprah, definitely super duper successful. Bill Gates, all right? Billionaire, started Microsoft. He was retired from Microsoft, and now he's the head, he and his wife are the head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Do phenomenal work around education and healthcare disparities. Who else? Donald Trump. You're fired. That guy, right? With the hair. Come over, right? He's good. Who else? Who's this? Ben Carson, the surgeon, all right? John Hopkins Hospital. Saw him on the elevator one time. He was cool, too. Real cool guy. I was up in Baltimore, visiting family members. They had a family member in the hospital, and just happened to be just coincidence. Huge. Outliers. Individuals that are super duper successful. What Malcolm Gladwell found out. Those individuals that he interviewed, researched and studied. And individuals that are super successful. The Michael Jordans of the world. Wayne Gretzky's of the world, who set themselves apart from even the best of the best. He found out that they spend about 10,000 hours working specifically on their craft, mastering their craft. And he said it typically takes about 10,000 hours and or 10 years for them to be super duper successful. And so when he followed individuals in their careers, when they hit that point in life where they became this huge, iconic, or had experienced huge, iconic success, then they had put in those hours and they had put time on task for those for their particular craft. And so when you look at entertainers, for instance, because they're the most easy to identify with and reach, for this example, when you look at a Beyonce, and you see how successful she is, when she hit the pinnacle of her career in her mid to late 20s. Now, she's in her mid to late 20s and a national and international icon. But when did she start singing? When she was about what? 14, 15. Y'all ever see the behind the music type things? Her dad had the Destiny Children running and singing at the same time. At 11, 12, and 13 years old. They were in all of these pageants and contests. We didn't even know who Beyonce was then. 10 or 14 years later, we do know who she is. Not only do we know, but the entire world knows. She mastered her craft. Hip-hop, Lil Wayne. He's still alive. Yeah, still glad, right? That scissor about got him, I tell you, about got him. He was on lean guard. Okay, yeah, it's another story. But Lil Wayne, who remembers his first CD? Who said the block is hot? That's what's up. Yeah, all right. So, the block is hot. Now, if you ask a 14-year-old, they're going to take the car. Because that's all that they know. They only know Lil Wayne when he got popular. But Lil Wayne, when he dropped that CD, he was about 14 or 15 years old. And when he dropped the car on 2, when he really began to get national and international success, he was about 25 years, 26 years. He did not. It takes about 10 years to become an overnight success. And so real men master their craft. They take action. They put time, energy, and effort into their craft. And they also understand that their actions can change their conditions. Now, when you were a baby, an infant, and your parents or your guardians were bringing you home from the hospital, could you say, hey, Mom, Dad, I want to live over here in that house? You couldn't say it. Why? Because you couldn't talk, right? Now, you had to go home to the house that your parents or guardians took you. And whatever that condition was, it's the condition that you grew up in. It could have been a good condition, a great condition, or it could have been a challenging or not so good condition. But we do understand that our environment conditions who we are. And I've learned this in education, that it's a lot easier to control the environment than it is to try to control the student. And so if I don't want my students to go to sleep, I don't have chairs that have armrests on them. I make them sit up in regular chairs in theater style, and they struggling too. Sometimes, right? That's okay. But it's hard to go to sleep when you don't have anything to prop on. It's hard. And so I understand that. I just give them the regular chairs without arms on them. And now they have to sit up. I don't have to tell them to sit up. The chair tells them they have to sit up. Easy to control the environment. But our environment conditions us. Do you know that about 70% of the millionaires in our country were not born millionaires? They were not born millionaires. They made choices that changed their what? Conditions. That's the beautiful thing about us as human beings. We have the ability to make choices to change our lives. And education can help us. It's a major factor in changing our lives. And so men take action, they make choices, and they take actions to change their conditions. They also are good decision makers. And I won't spend a lot of time on that because I want to make sure that I get to some of the resources that are necessary for men and young ladies to be successful. That the research would suggest that if you're going to be successful in life and make this transition, that you need some resources. And the first resource is your physical health and your mobility. That's why as a middle-aged man, I try to take care of myself. Because I understand that my health impacts my wealth. My ability to be able to get up in the morning and go, and how long and how hard I can go during the day impacts. Because you see, I may not be as smart as some. And I realized this a long time ago. Well, not really, it was a long time ago. It was actually when I was in college at North Carolina Central. It was amazing because up until my sophomore year in college, I had never made an A in a major subject. Never made an A in a major subject. And what I assumed as a high school, elementary, middle high school student is that my peers were just smarter than me. They're just smarter than me. That's why they make A's and I only make C's. Occasional B's and occasional D's. Thought it was just the way it was. And my mentor now, and professor, and department chair at the time, began to challenge me in a different way. And I learned something. This is groundbreaking. If I don't say anything else, remember this. I learned in college that if you study hard and do your assignments, you can make A's. That's deep, baby. Y'all like, that's not so deep. It took you all the way to college. Yeah, but think about this. I understood that, and it was eye-opening to me because I always thought that either I was smart or not. I didn't understand that you had to take some action to put forth that effort. And so you have to be healthy to put forth effort. And when I started taking care of myself, which I pretty much did all the time, but I focused my energy, and I started focusing my energy and putting time on task, I realized then that I may not learn as quick, but I can still learn as much. And so it may take me 3 hours to learn what it takes somebody 1. But if I'm willing to put in the 3 hours, I can get the same information that they have and the same understanding. And so I started understanding that the effort for me was important. And so if I can put forth effort, I can have pretty much what I desire and want out of life. Taking action, you got to have your health and mobility to do that. Mental health is acquired skills to read, write, and compute and critically think for daily life. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. If you cannot read, write, compute, or critically think, you are in trouble. This society is not serving individuals well who cannot. Now with technology and advancement of technology, it's a must for us. And so we have to do that. Then we have to understand our emotional ability. We talked about that earlier, particularly in negative situations. Now, I've just recently taken a leadership position with Goodwill Industries, as well as still doing my own business. And I'm the manager of a few services there. And I am sure some of my team members don't like me. And I'm sure I don't like some of them. Sure, right? But it doesn't matter if I like like them or not, or if they like me or not. The issue is, can I control my emotions? And can they control their emotions? And we work with, we're a career development organization, and so we help 18 to 24-year-olds actually with career choices and things of that nature, career development. And we get young people, we help place them in work experiences. And some of our young people get fired from their job. And I said, okay, well, what happened? My supervisor came at me sideways. And when he came at you sideways, okay, but what did you do? Well, when he came at me sideways, I blanked on him. I went, okay, when you blanked on him, what happened? I got fired. Yeah, that will happen when you blank on your supervisors. You will get fired. If you cannot control your emotions. Jim Rohn says, send your emotions to school so you can learn how to behave. Emotional capacity is key. Moral belief. The belief in doing what is right. You work at that restaurant, those steaks are not yours. You can't take a box of them and throw them outside and have your homeboy come by and pick them up. Because understand is that Big Brother is always watching. Understand, after 9/11, somebody is watching you all the time. If you walk a block down the street, you are being videotaped. I promise. In any major or even semi-major city, if you walk down the street in Charlotte, any block you walk on in Charlotte, you will be recorded. Now on the side of roads, you will be recorded. Why? Because we need that in our society to help us feel safe. And so you have to do the right thing even when you think no one is watching. 2 minutes? Okay, cool. Alright, so the next thing we need is support systems. We got to have friends, family members, and backup resources. Now, if I ask someone to come up here and stand on the stage, okay, they don't have much time now, but I ask them to cross their arms and put their feet together. And I ask them to trust that I will catch them. Now, the guy didn't really know me from anybody. He came up and I said, hey, you trust me? He's like, yeah, I trust you. I said, okay, cool. And then he started looking like, what you gonna do? I said, well, I want you to trust me. I want you to trust that I'm gonna catch you. And then I used that to illustrate this concept of life and why support systems are so key. And men have to surround themselves with the right support systems because as in life, we all fall short sometimes. But the question is, do you have family members, friends, to support you and get you back in the game of life? Because if you don't have a support system, you fall flat on your back. And it's much harder to get up from your back and on the ground than it is to get up when you got somebody that can support you and get you back in the game of life. Support systems are key. And you got to have relationships with those individuals that have frequent access to individuals who do not engage in negative or self-destructive behavior. It was a song on, it's called Self-Made 2, Rick Ross. That guy, right? He had a song called Power Circle. It was a real cool song, but I like that concept. Because men, we got to surround ourselves specifically with other men who support us in a significant and profound kind of way. I got true male friends that if I'm stepping out of line, they're like, yo, Kwain, you are falling off. You slipping. You need to step your game up. You got to have other men in your life who can tell you that. You got to have men in your life who can encourage you. Yo, bro, you can do it. Continue. Keep pushing. Keep grinding. You got to have those individuals that can be a comforter. Yes, a man that can be a comforter. And be comfortable with that. And saying, bro, it's going to be all right. Maintain. Hold your head. You need that power circle around you so that you can continue to be successful. It's the saying that goes that we are the sum of the foremost people we hang around or associate ourselves with the most. The power of influence. So surround yourself with people. We also the right people. And we also have to understand the knowledge of the game or the hidden rules of the game. That in every, particularly at the university level and the professional level, function from a middle class standard. And you have to understand those values that come along with that so we can conduct ourselves in a proper fashion so that we can get and accomplish the things that we want. And last but not least, it's financial. Money to purchase goods and services. So as I bring things to a close, why do you think it is that out of all of these resources, money was the last one on this list? Why?
What we know the least about.
Maybe the one you might know the least about. What else? Listen, you're exactly right. The rest of these resources are free 99. You don't have to pay anything for them. But if you have them, they will allow you to make a lot of money. You see, I work with professional athletes who are gifted, meaning that they have talents and skills that they didn't have to work for. It was given to them. They were gifted with those skills. And because they were gifted with those skills, they were able to earn a lot of money. But guess what I found out about those individuals who are gifted and then have the talent and the skills to earn a lot of money? If they don't have these other resources, guess what happens to their money? They lose it. That's why 70%, about 72% of NFL players, 2 years after they retire, file for bankruptcy or under financial stress. That's 65% of NBA players, 5 years after they retire, are filing for bankruptcy or under financial stress. These are individuals who've earned at least $1 million in their career. And the average professional career for an athlete is about 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So they've earned millions of dollars in 3 to 5 years. But 2 or 3 years after that, they're under financial stress. And so I say to you that these other resources will allow us to earn the money that we want to purchase the goods and services that we need. Last, as I close out, and I won't really go into this, is living better, and that simply is leadership. Having the influence. Just because you have 5,000 followers on Twitter does not mean you are a leader. Leadership is about having influence and changing lives. As we stated earlier, that real men are self-sufficient. They take care of themselves, they take care of their family, and they take care of their community. And you have that influence to be able to do that. And the beautiful thing about being a man is having the ability to manifest. To create something that does not currently exist. That real men have vision, this mental image of what the future looks like. And they can take this image, this picture in their mind and make it real on earth. Beautiful and powerful concept. But leaders do that. Leaders bring others along with them. They influence their community in a positive kind of way. And so today, as real men talk, I encourage you to think big, to act big, and to live better. Because next year this time, things will not be the same. You will either be better or worse. So I challenge you and encourage you to invest in positive change. Thank you for your time.
Purpose Productions.